Welcome in. Happy Monday morning. It's great to be back with you on KCMO Talk Radio, now on FM at 95.7. Welcome in. Hope you had an awesome weekend. I was having a great weekend. You know, you didn't have the drama of worrying about the Chiefs after winning on Thursday. Got to kick back, watch some college football on Saturday. Took a little break from the news. Of course, it was a tough news week last week, outside of course, our move to FM. That was pretty exciting. But, you know, the national news was pretty serious. And then, of course, you get the Sunday, and all's going well. Get the kids off. We go to church, everything else. And then the little one comes down with a nasty, nasty stomach bug as the afternoon went along. So, needless to say, we were watching a little football, hanging out. She was not eating all day, got sick, and last night was every hour on the hour. So I need Mark and John to carry me through these next 3 hours and 55 minutes. Are you guys up for the task? Are you ready?
I'm here for you.
All right. Mark's ready to roll. John's always ready to roll. And we're ready to roll on a busy Monday morning here on KCMO Talk Radio. So, first off, I know some of you are going to sit here and say, well, at least we didn't have to talk about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift over the weekend. Well, not so fast, as Lee Corso would say. Travis Kelce was on the sidelines for the Eagles game yesterday. I was locked in on that Eagles-Jets game yesterday. As I noted, I don't know about you, but I had to take a little bit of a break from the news cycle. So that Eagles-Jets game was outstanding. I know it's better for the Chiefs if the Eagles win because you always want the AFC teams to lose. But I was rooting for the Jets yesterday. I just wanted to see the Eagles lose. As someone who went to college in Philadelphia, there are few joys I have in life more than watching Philadelphia sports teams lose. Unfortunately, the Philadelphia Phillies are damn good this year. They're in the NLCS. But if I can watch the Eagles lose, that's always a good Sunday for me. So Travis Kelce shows up on the sidelines, and he's there to cheer on his brother, Jason Kelce, who, of course, is the center for the Philadelphia Eagles. And did you see what he picked up? Did you see what he was doing on the sidelines? First off, he was drinking a beer. All right, so here he is, Mr. Bud Light himself, on the sidelines drinking a beer. And what is Travis Kelce drinking? He's drinking a Corona, baby. He's not drinking a Bud Light. Woo! He's drinking a Corona. Now, I put this up on social media. It was very brief where you could see what he was drinking. The screenshot is up on my Twitter page. It's also up on my Facebook page at Pete Mundo. You can see it there. And it's just a split second where you can kind of see what the can is. And I was so fascinated. I'm like, first off, what is he drinking? Is he drinking booze? Is he having a, Diet Coke? What's he drinking? Well, it turns out he was having a beer. And he's drinking a Corona. And I'm like, this guy has been Mr. Bud Light in these commercials the last few weeks, right? And here he is on the sidelines having a Corona? So even Travis Kelce, deep down, not a Bud Light guy. He cashed the check and he moved on with his day. I don't know if I hate it or I love it. But the point is this. If Travis Kelce was that married to Bud Light, a la Patrick Mahomes with Coors Light, right? You don't see Mahomes having a beer in public unless it's a Coors Light. I mean, can you think of any time you've seen Mahomes drink any alcoholic beverage other than Coors Light publicly?
Never.
Okay, me neither. I'm just making sure I didn't miss some obvious time. But whether it's Super Bowl parades or anything, Mahomes knows he's a Coors Light guy through and through. Now, maybe in the privacy of his home, he'll dabble in something else. But in public, he's a Coors Light man. Travis Kelce is in the middle of a Bud Light campaign. And he's in front of millions of people on TV yesterday in New Jersey for the Jets-Eagles game, cheering on his brother, drinking a Corona. Now, it's the same company, some may argue, as Bud Light. It is ABV, InBev, but regardless of that, he's not drinking the beer that he's all over television promoting. So just, I respect that for Travis Kelce. The guy basically said, I'm going to take a check and I'm not going to live that lifestyle. I'm not going to be that Bud Light man. I'm not going to be Dylan Mulvaney 2.0, John.
He's inching closer to Matthew McConaughey on the bro scale. Did you see the picture right in his Malibu going into practice? I don't know what was hanging from his lip there, but we had that little gate going on.
And now you're bringing up a serious thing that I've been starting to think about.
Okay.
I'm worried. I know he had a great game on Thursday, 9 catches, 120 some odd yards. I'm getting worried about Travis. I'm getting worried that he is in a post-football mindset right now. He's walking around the streets of Manhattan with Taylor Swift. Paparazzi's all over the place Saturday night. He's on the sidelines drinking beers, watching the Eagles play the Jets. I respect supporting the family. You got the weekend off. But, bro, your body's 34. It's not 24 anymore. I need that thing running like a fine, a fine machine right now. I can't have you going to hot shot dinners in Manhattan on Saturday, eating all the sodium in the world, drinking beers on Sunday afternoon. I mean, this isn't college at Cincinnati anymore, Travis. Come on.
And I might posture perhaps he's just being himself, and now there's more cameras on him because of the girlfriend.
Touche. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it.
Mm-hmm.
All I'm saying is I noticed on Friday morning, I was at the game Thursday night. I didn't drink a lot or anything. I had one beer, and I was dragging you-know-what coming in here Friday. Now, 2-3 years ago, I could do that. I'd feel a lot better. But now, 2 kids later, a couple of years older, you reach those mid-30s, just like Travis. You don't feel like you did at late 20s, early 30s. I'm telling you, there's a big drop-off, I feel, once you hit the mid-30s.
And it's universal. I was talking with Shay on Power 105, and she had gone to Beyonce and had to get people to the airport and come in and do the show.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, as you get older, that 24-hour rebound becomes 36 hours, then it's 42, then it's forget about it.
Yeah, I don't want to know what it's like at your age, John. I don't even want to think about that right now. But I'm just warning Travis from one fellow mid-30s guy to another. Body ain't bouncing back like it used to, brother. I hope that he's back at the facilities this morning and he's ready for, I almost said San Diego, but Los Angeles, of course, with the Chargers coming up on Sunday. That's the only ask I've got. But this guy, I mean, even when you're trying to get rid of the Taylor Travis thing, it's still there. The one thing I will say, and I give a lot of credit to Taylor Swift for this, she did not show up to the game yesterday. She let Travis Kelce bro out for a little bit on the sidelines, hang out, support his brothers. There were some other guys there, drink some beers, have a good time. If she's one of those girls who's like, you know what, Travis, go hang with the boys, then you know what? She's going up very quickly in my book. That's the kind of girl that we all got to find ourselves. One who can let you go bro out and just hang out for a few hours and doesn't always need the spotlight, especially when she's the far bigger star. So if you had a great weekend, I hope it, maybe it wasn't as good as Travis Kelce's, but it was a good one. And I hope you got your mind off the news cycle a little bit because, boy, we all do need it. Now, there's a lot of serious stuff to get into this morning, including, if you didn't see it, some pro-Palestine rallies that were taking place on the plaza and some of the propaganda that was coming out of those rallies. We've got the audio of some of the folks who were down there on the plaza. We'll get to that. Coming up next, Pete Mundo on KCMO Talk Radio, now on your FM dial. Hit that preset at 95.7. Well, Greg Bennett at KCTV5 is not going to be happy with me. I've got an iced coffee here, not a hot cup of coffee. So I hope your morning's off to a great start. Welcome in on a Monday morning, 6:20 on KCMO Talk Radio, now on FM at 95.7.
Got the weather, you got a fashion tip and a beverage selection. So.
Hey, I'm coming out firing this morning on a Monday morning there, John.
I prefer a nice beverage, though,
yes.
Actually. So.
Well, John just drinks 2 gallons of Dr. Pepper every morning. That's how he gets through the program. So I'll tell you what, speaking of people who are not going to be maybe thrilled with me this morning, sorry to Hamas sympathizers who are doing the whataboutisms across Kansas City as they've been doing for the better part of a week. Sorry, not sorry. There were hundreds of folks gathered at Mill Creek Park right off the plaza on Saturday. And they were showing support for the Palestinian people and calling for peace. And they were totally missing and kind of rewriting history on what we all saw with our own 2 eyes over the last 7 to 8 days. That's what they were doing. Of course, you had a sympathetic media here in Kansas City who was, playing that whole game of human rights and all that kind of nonsense, which I understand. I don't want anybody to end up in the situation of what we're seeing in the Middle East. But then there are realities of how we got here. And you just had the Israeli people deal with the equivalent of 6 or 7 September 11th last Saturday. And now they are responding to individuals on their border, the Hamas leadership in Gaza, who, if they had their way, would kill every Jew on the planet. Let's not sugarcoat it. Let's not, beat around the bush. If Hamas had its way, they would wipe every Jew off the planet. That's who these people are. So it's not just about retaliation. If you are Israel, it is about self-preservation. And these people on the plaza, who were all about Palestinian rights, seemingly did not have a lot of issue with the leadership in their own country. I want to start off with this gentleman who was down there. He spoke to KCTV5. Maybe gentleman is too strong of a term. Mohammed Oda. Here's part of the package with KCTV5 and what he had to say from the plaza over the weekend where these pro-Palestine rallies were taking place.
Free, free Palestine! Dr. Mohammed Oda was born and raised in Gaza and moved to Kansas City years ago.
I still have 6 siblings with all of their kids and grandkids. All of them are currently right now in Gaza.
Thankfully, Oda says as far as he knows, they're okay, but with no resources.
No water, no electricity, no nothing.
But he says some of his cousins weren't so lucky, saying one of their homes collapsed before they could evacuate.
It is heart-wrenching.
And now he says he's lost all form of communication.
Because the internet went down and what have you. So we're trying to the best we can to learn something and to know how they're doing. I urge everyone that wants to listen there is to give peace a chance. Give them their legitimate rights. That's all what it takes. I don't know what else I could say.
Give them their legitimate rights, says Mohammed Oda to KCTV5. This was from the pro-Palestine rally on the plaza over the weekend. Yeah, I didn't hear a guy there who was really railing on leadership in Gaza, i.e. the terrorist group Hamas, where he says his friends and family are having to live under, theoretically, without any choice. I don't hear a guy being overly critical of what he should be critical of, and that is the terrorist leadership in the country where he has family. I hear him talking about giving peace a chance. I agree. I want to give peace a chance. We should all want to give peace a chance. All we are saying is give peace a chance. All right, I'm done singing at 6:24 on a Monday. That's it. You won't hear from me again. All right? But then there's the realities of what's happening on the ground there. Israel has been wanting to give peace a chance, to use his words. Israel is not the one being proactive in this war. They're the ones who have been reactive to what they just dealt with, which was an unsolicited attack, the equivalent of 6 or 7 9/11s in their country. And to hear Palestinian sympathizers on the plaza right here in Kansas City talking to TV stations as if what's happening in Gaza is just unprovoked and we got to give peace a chance and there has to be one big ceasefire. Meantime, tell me what other military on planet Earth is doing what Israel has done here the last few days, which is saying get your innocent civilians and get your women and children out of this part of the country and do it as quickly as you can. Who else is doing that? And this comes a week after they had innocent women and children slaughtered all over, the southern part of their country in a completely unprovoked attack by Hamas. And you've got Palestinian propagandists right here in Kansas City on the plaza pushing that. I mean, you're listening to that. You're seeing that with your own 2 eyes, right? I mean, that is completely ridiculous. I feel bad for anybody who's got family caught in the middle of this. But for Mohammed Oda to be down on the plaza talking to KCTV5 and talking to Kansas City TV media talking about how heart-wrenching this is. I didn't hear him say it was heart-wrenching what happened in Israel last Saturday. Maybe he did and I just missed it. But you know what? That's heart-wrenching. That is the definition of heart-wrenching. And I didn't hear him talk about that from the standpoint of heart-wrenching. I heard him talk about the response being heart-wrenching. Regardless of how you feel about the response, if you don't use the word heart-wrenching in the context of what took place a week ago Saturday in Israel, then you're not a person I can have a serious conversation with. You are pushing propaganda from one side of this, ongoing war that obviously has been going on forever and has no end in sight. 913-408-7957. That's 913-408-7957. That is the studio line and the text line now here on KCMO Talk Radio, because we are at 95.7. That means new number. That means new text line. But this stuff is right here in Kansas City. Hundreds of people down on the plaza sympathizing. In many ways, not just with the Palestinian people, but with Hamas. But if I'm someone like Mohammed Oda, you know who I'm mad at? I'm mad at my leadership in Gaza. I'm mad at Hamas, who is not letting people leave the country, by the way, or Egypt, who is closing off its border along the south. That's who I'm upset with, not Israel. At least if you're being a fair arbiter of what's taken place over the last week and you're not a propagandist. Well, you got to give credit where it's due. Bill Maher is not somebody that I necessarily consider myself seeing eye to eye with on a lot of things. However, he has been very good as of late. And by as of late, I really mean since COVID, on pushing back on some of the insanity, whether it's things like canceling Aunt Jemima from the syrup bottle, whether it is, defunding the police. Like Bill, and it's funny because Bill Maher was always like you thought of Bill Maher and you thought of, okay, comedian, liberal, that was his shtick. Now he has pushed back and continues to do so against some of those progressive movements on his side of the aisle. And I respect that. I appreciate that. We all should call out crazy, even if it's with people who might vote similarly to us. I think that's always important to do. And Bill Maher, on his show over the weekend, did an absolutely outstanding job, John.
Maybe one comedian that's not afraid to go against the establishment and the tradition of being a comedian, right?
Yes, that's so true. And that's what he does very well. Right now, a lot of comedians are afraid to do that, right? Jimmy Kimmel's never going to go against the establishment, right? Kimmel's a hack. Think of the other guys. Fallon's kind of been beaten into submission ever since he played with Donald Trump's hair back in 2016. He humanized Donald Trump in a way that you're not allowed to do. So Fallon's been beaten into submission. So, and forget Colbert. I mean, that guy's wackiest of the wackos right now. He's the totally lost cause. But Bill Maher, he's a straight shooter, man. You can't predict the guy. So first off, Bill Maher on his show over the weekend called out the hypocrisy of those uber progressives who are sympathizing with Hamas. Just take a listen to what he had to say here in his monologue.
I just want to finish with the values first, because it's just amazing to me that the American left, so much of it, throws their lot in with people whose values I hope they don't share, but let's go through them. Because values and customs make a difference, okay? And the people of Gaza, by the way, if the Israelis did get rid of Hamas, they'd be doing a giant favor to the people of Gaza who hate Hamas too. But let's just go through the lists. Because the Israelis look like us in most ways, values-wise. Maybe we're not doing it the right way. I don't know. Religious tolerance. That doesn't exist in Gaza. You're either Muslim or an infidel, and you better be a Muslim. Female freedom. Free and fair elections. Free speech. Gay rights. I see these Queers for Palestine.
Did you hear their sister
banners.
Organization, Blacks for the KKK?
That's exactly right. I mean, that is so, I don't know who that guy was, but that is so spot on. I mean, it's nothing new that the wokest of the woke don't have any historical context in anything that they preach, but that is exactly right. Queers for Palestine. I don't think you guys understand how it works over there. I don't want to, be too vulgar right now. It's 6:38 on a Monday, but, you got to kind of do a little bit of historical digging here into how that would go for you over there.
It's like...
By the way, I'm a gay man. I've lived in Berlin. This is a level of masochism that even I cannot comprehend.
Right. I mean... You know what? I'm going to just... can I just finish my list of pedophilia? I'll put that under don't ask. Child brides and so forth. Equality of the sexes. The fact that, these people think that this is where they should be aligned with? That these are the values that you support?
I think this past week has been a real important moment for a moral reckoning on the American left. Because there is a small, and I'm going to emphasize that, a very small, but growing and extremely loud faction on the American left that has revealed itself.
I don't know how
to
small
be
anymore.
Okay, well, I mean...
It was all over.
I don't know how small either. And the reason I say that is because look at how the media has handled this. Locally, the Kansas City Star continues to do a lot of sympathizing with the Palestinians, specifically not looking at what Hamas just did to Israel as something that deserves massive retaliation on their end. Not American involvement right now. No one's talking about that. You're hearing a lot of people say, well, you guys that are all upset and, all bent out of shape and think this is the worst thing ever. Well, it is one of the worst, things that we've seen in modern world history when it comes to terrorism. There's no doubt about that. But no one's sitting here. I mean, there's a couple of people like Lindsey Graham who, forget him. But demanding that the U.S. Declare war right now or go into Iran or anything like that. No one's, well, I shouldn't say no one, but level-headed people are not doing that at this point in time. Some of the screamers and the warmongers are. But many of us are just saying there are not two sides right now. There is an innocent country of its people who just got slaughtered. And they have every right to respond and do what they are doing. And by the way, doing it in as humane a way as possible, if there is such a thing when you talk about war. But how long, how many days now has Israel been saying to Gaza, get innocent people out of the northern part of your country because that is where we are going to attack you? And if Hamas does not allow its people out of that part of the country, well, guess what? That's not Israel's fault. That is the fault of leadership in that country. And that's what I would say to everybody who was protesting on the plaza here over the last couple of days, which was happening, of course, on Saturday afternoon, where you had signs up. I'm looking at some of the signs right there, right by Rye on the plaza. You know where I'm talking about, right when you come in there from the east side. Here's one of the signs. U.S. taxes are subsidizing Israel war. Are you okay with that? Wake up is one of the signs being held up. Well, I don't know. Are you okay? I mean, are you okay? I would ask anybody who's got a sign up like that, who wants to send into a text like that on this show, who wants to call in at 913-408-7957. I would say, are you okay with what happened in Israel? And if you're not okay, and no decent human being should be okay with what took place, then are you allowed as a nation to respond to your worst terrorist attack in your nation's history? Or are you supposed to sit there and twiddle your thumbs and say, geez, I wish that didn't happen, but I'd hate to respond because, well, that wouldn't be the right thing to do either. Are you supposed to just take it against a group of people who, if they had a nuclear weapon, by the way, would wipe you off the face of the earth. And that's exactly what would happen if Hamas had one. And everybody knows that. But they're supposed to just sit back and give peace a chance. I told you I would be done singing 19 minutes ago. Okay, that's my last one. Is that what's supposed to happen? It's truly unbelievable. Oh, boy. 6:43, welcome in on a Monday morning on KCMO Talk Radio. Pete, look at the coverage. This is on the text line. Channel 9 had yesterday morning. Graphic. I can only handle so much of the woke local media, so I did not see what Channel 9 did. I'll have to send me a link if you got that on the text line, all right, if you see anything that any of the local media did. I saw some of it, and it was highly, highly, highly underwhelming. But that's nothing new. That's why, this radio station is now on the FM dial, because we've got to talk about things and address the things in a way that many in local media do not. That's what's made this show popular and successful over the last 5+ years. And it will be the case for the next several years as well, courtesy of you. And being on the FM stick with a 100,000-watt frequency is one way to go about doing it. Top of the hour, just after 7 o'clock, if you were at the WWE event at T-Mobile on Saturday night, there was a shooting outside of there. So if you were there on Saturday night, I do want to hear from you on KCMO. We'll hit that just after 7 o'clock. Meantime, coming up, Mark Alford gave an update on his Facebook page last night on the Speaker of the House situation. I don't know about you, but I'm really over that one. I mean, it is, gosh, talk about people that are obsessed with themselves and nothing more. Not you, not me, but themselves. We'll get you the update on that. Kevin Keatsman will be here at 7:30 on KCMO. Welcome in on a Monday morning. So I know that there were many of you who were out at the WWE event at T-Mobile on Saturday night. And if you were there on Saturday night, there were multiple people getting shot outside of the arena while you were watching fake wrestling. I'm not here to judge you for it, but, let's be honest, that's what it is, right? It's all scripted. We all know that. And that's okay. It's entertainment. Not a big deal. It's like going to a concert. It's fine. I'm not judging you. But you had 3 teenagers shot outside T-Mobile on Saturday night. And this was not, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning. This was at 9 p.m., right at 13th and Grand. KCPD responded and found 3 teenage males with non-life-threatening gunshot wounds. They were all taken to an area hospital in stable condition. T-Mobile was locked down during its WWE event for safety precautions. Now, as of the latest reporting here from KCTV5 and some of the other outlets in town, it's unclear what led to the shooting, but there does not seem to be any additional threats to the public involving this incident. And the police had not announced any arrests as of yesterday, when this story had been updated by our local media. But if you're in T-Mobile, think about this over the weekend. If you're in T-Mobile, you're in a building that's on lockdown, and you don't know about it. Now, some of you have already texted in this morning and have said that there were no announcement made. There was nothing that was said on the overhead speaker about what took place on Saturday night. And frankly, I understand that, because had something been said throughout T-Mobile, hey, by the way, you're all on lockdown in here, while the event was going on, that would have caused massive amounts of chaos and upheaval, right? I mean, that would have been a complete disaster, especially because of, the high alert that many Americans and Kansas Cityans are on after, what's happened in Israel, what's happening on that side of the world, the fact that we've been living for 3 years with open borders, having no idea who's in this country, what their intentions are. There is reason for high alert right now in America. And if you were in T-Mobile Center over the weekend and a message came over to the overhead speaker saying this building is now on lockdown after a shooting incident outside the arena, how do you think that would have gone? That would not have gone well. So I understand why nothing was said. I don't think they should have said anything at that moment. unless there was reason to believe that people in the arena were at risk. And KCPD did not have that information. So at this point, that's part one of the story. But the larger part of the story is this is another black eye for an entertainment district in Kansas City. Because how many people, maybe you've done this, I'm not a leave concert early kind of guy. I don't pay for events and then leave them early typically, unless it's like a high school football game with Claire where I paid $5 to get in, and it's more of an experience than it is about going to the event. But I don't pay hundreds of dollars for a concert or a show and then be like, I'm going to head out, as the encore is getting set to take place. That's just, when I see people leave during an encore of a concert, I'm like, either they hated the show or they've got something really important to get to. Because if I'm staying till the end of Chiefs games and concerts when I got a 4 a.m. wake up, then I think most people can stay. But, whatever. That's just me. How much does a story like this make you say, you know what, forget it? Whether it's the Plaza, where crime is ticked up, whether it's T-Mobile, where unfortunately you have more reports of this in recent months in and around that area, that part of town, whether it's Westport, where for years they've been dealing with shooting incidents. I'm good. I'm not going down. I'm not bothering to go to the concert, to go to the show if I'm on the fence about it. I'm not going to go to Power and Light to watch a game. I'm just not going to go. There's no perfect way to quantify it, right? There's no economic study that's going to show you how much money an entertainment district loses by people not going there because they're concerned about crime. But I'll tell you right now, there are people out there that won't do it. Maybe you're one of them at 913-408-7957. Maybe that's you. Now, it's not me. If there's a concert I want to see, if there's a show I want to see, I will still go down there. I will. I mean, that's just me. I'm not going to be scared off by a couple of hooligans. Like, I will go down there to the show, to the concert, and have a good time, and I guess take my chances. But there's a lot of people that won't. And this is the thing. When you have Quentin Lucas or city leaders bragging about the economic impact of Taylor Swift and Beyonce and Billy Joel and Stevie Nicks and things like that, that's great. But you guys got to also understand that as long as you've got a city where crime is not just permeating, poorer urban parts of town, but also entertainment districts, you're going to lose out on that too. Not just because of concerts, but also people that are going out to dinner, that want to do some retail shopping. Where are they going to go? Where do they want to be? Well, if you've got money to spend and you've got options, you are not going to spend your time in places where you've got any chance of some kind of violence breaking out. There are too many places around town. And it's not like the old days where, you got to go to the big city to get a good bite to eat. No, you got a lot of options in the suburbs and around town and around the region where you can spend your money. Vote with your dollar. The old John Anthony line. Vote with that dollar. And people will continue to do that. And that's where the business owners in Kansas City have to step up. If you are a small business owner in Kansas City, I know you're afraid of some of the woke backlash, but you've got to step up. You've got to say, guys, whatever you have to do to get more cops on the streets, to get more deterrence, especially in key entertainment districts, you have to do it. Who's the guy, Mark, that you have been talking to with Ray the last couple of weeks? The chicken guy. I don't want to call him that. I don't mean to say that in a demeaning way.
Todd Johnson.
Todd Johnson.
Yeah.
What's he own?
He owns Strips Chicken.
That's right.
3 locations, one in Waldo that gets hit a lot.
They get hit with what? Just nonsense?
Random burglaries in the middle of the night.
That guy, he's got a backbone, that guy. He's coming on this show. Mark and Ray, I mean, they're becoming best friends, the three of them. You're going to be seeing them, going out. 3 amigos there. You got Ray, you got Mark, and you got, Todd from...
Strips.
That's right.
Yeah.
Todd from... Yeah, hey, you guys. Sheesh. You got a real bromance going, the 3 of you. But it's great. First off, it's good radio. And secondly, credit to Todd because he's actually saying, hey, here's what's happening to my business in Waldo in Kansas City, Missouri. Waldo's not exactly a poor part of town, right? That's a vibrant part of town. And his restaurant, his business, his livelihood is getting hit on a fairly regular basis. And he's posting on social media about it. He's all ticked off about it. It's guys like Todd that have got to speak up, and maybe you're one of them. But until the restaurant community, the business community, we had on the guy from the Restaurant Association, the president there. I'm blanking on his name. But I'm not going to lie. I was very underwhelmed with his response when he's got his restaurants who theoretically pay him to be members of the Restaurant Association getting bombarded with burglaries, losing out on business because of crime. And they've kind of got this lackadaisical approach of, well, we don't want to offend too many people. No. Your members are losing out on revenue, which means their livelihoods are at stake. It is your duty to speak out and speak up. And that's got to happen more prominently across Kansas City, notably from the small business and pro-business community. 913-408-7957. Welcome in Monday in the morning, 7:14. As we get the new week started. Our first full week on your FM dial at 95.7 FM. Hit that preset right now. Set it. And that way you won't forget it. Kevin Kiesman will be here at the bottom of the hour. We'll talk to him about a great weekend in area sports. That's all coming up on KCMO. Happy Monday morning. Welcome in. Hope you had a great weekend. Trying to disconnect from some of the hard news. Of course, unfortunately, that's been the case the past week and a half or so, since now 1,400 Israelis have been killed in those terrorist attacks by Hamas 9 days ago. And the breaking news here from the morning is that the Israeli ground invasion appears imminent. That according to Fox News. So we're monitoring that live as we speak here on a Monday morning on 95.7 FM. But you've also seen college campuses go absolutely insane over the last week. Just when you thought they couldn't get any crazier, right? They've gotten crazier. Whether it is Hamas sympathizers at Harvard, whether it is rallies on the plaza over the weekend, whether it's the pro-Palestinian event that's taking place at UMKC. I believe that's coming up on Thursday. Not totally sure on the date and time, don't really care, but there is an event at UMKC that's happening this week. What should be happening when it comes to these college campuses in particular? Well, Josh Hawley, he has some thoughts, Missouri U.S. Senator. He was on Fox News on Friday night, and here's what he said in response to what colleges should be doing, and more importantly, what maybe the DOJ should be doing on this front.
Makes me want to send my kids to a state school any day over that institution.
You know, and that same institution, Sean, as I recall, was quick to fly the flag of Ukraine over Harvard Yard. But now, when Israel is under attack, their terrorists are murdering children, cutting off the heads of babies. They want to wipe Israel off the face of the map. Let's be honest. They would kill every Jew in the world if they could. That's what these terrorists want. And to be silent in the face of that, or to celebrate it as these crazy student groups are doing, what I want to know, Sean, is who's funding these student groups. I hope that the DOJ is investigating where the money is coming from. Are there terror groups who are part of these networks who are infiltrating our campuses? I mean, this is crazy stuff that we're seeing on these campuses. And for these administrators to have their hand out to take federal money, taxpayer money, and at the same time be silent or silently condone this kind of terrorism is just, it is grotesque.
I mean, that's Josh Hawley on Fox News on Friday night. And when he said that, and I saw the clip over the weekend, I'm like, you know what? He's right. Now, the DOJ is too busy investigating moms going to school board meetings who are upset that, their boys are being told they can be girls and vice versa. So I don't know if the DOJ has time for it based on what their priorities appear to be. But he's absolutely right. Who is funding some of these organizations? Whether it's UMKC's event on Thursday, I believe it is, or whether it's some of the protests that were happening on major college campuses, not just Harvard last week that got the most attention, but There was even events happening at the University of Washington, where, by the way, College Game Day was. Like, I'm watching College Game Day, and then I'm also seeing crazy rallies taking place over the weekend. And I'm like, what the heck is going on there? Thankfully, that didn't make, the backdrop of Kirk Herbstreit and Pat McAfee on Saturday morning. I didn't have to see any of that wacko-ness. But it was happening in major college campuses all over America over the last few days. And it's not just, they're talking about it, well, it's just Harvard or some of the more prominent universities. It's not. It's here in the heartland. It's, yes, on the crazy coast, but it's also in our backyard. And the DOJ that has so much time, apparently, to investigate frivolous things, like moms and dads going to school board meetings and saying things that they don't like. Where are they on this? And this is not a free speech issue, right? Like, I'm fine. The reality is, whether it's on college campuses or if it's on the plaza over the weekend, where there was a lot of excuse-making for what Hamas did last Saturday in Israel. That was happening right here on the plaza. As someone who's all about free speech, I've got to sit back and let them do their thing. I don't like it. And I certainly think it makes sense for the DOJ to do a little bit of investigating here and making sure that they're just people who are ill-informed and don't know what they're talking about, and not people who are organizing some type of terrorist events or actions. That's fine. There's 330 million people in this country. A lot of them are uninformed. Like, that's nothing new. But it's one thing to be uninformed and go to a rally where you just don't know what you're talking about. It's another thing if you have motives that potentially could result in the harm of American citizens. That's a very different story. And that's where I just sit back and I wonder, hey, is the DOJ involved in this in any capacity? They should be. And then there was Bill Maher over the weekend, who had a very good monologue where, of course, he brought his sense of humor, as only Bill Maher can, to the conversation when it came to what is happening on some of these college campuses. Here he was.
Harvard Student Association signed a letter that basically threw their lot in with the killers, but there was a backlash because some CEO said when these kids now go for a job, they're going to be blacklisted. And a lot of the students are still standing by their position to support the war criminals, but they strenuously object to the word blacklist.
Oh, that is outstanding. It's so true, by the way. Yeah, we'll stand by the war criminals. We'll stand by Hamas. And, you hate to have any kind of comedy over this, but that was a great line from Bill Maher. They're more offended by being potentially, blacklisted and the use of the word blacklist than they are the war criminals. That is, in a nutshell, woke college campus ideology. Stand by Hamas, be offended by the word blacklist. That's it to a T. And I heard Bill Maher doing his monologue, and I'm like, that's brilliant. Because that's the insane environment that we find ourselves in. There are not two sides when it comes to what happened over the last week and a half. There aren't. You have an innocent people who had their women and children attacked and slaughtered. That's what you had 2 Saturdays ago in Israel, completely unprovoked. You now have a response from the Israelis, where, by the way, they are warning women and children to get out of the northern part of Gaza as quickly as they can. It is Hamas who is oftentimes blocking these people from leaving that northern portion of Gaza. That's what's happening right now. They are not letting their own innocent people leave in large part. That was reported all over the place over the weekend. Yet some people are trying to create some moral equivalency between these two sides. And there is absolutely none. None whatsoever. 913-408-7957. That is the new studio number and the text number here on KCMO Talk Radio, because we're now on 95.7 FM. Hit that preset. That's the new number. So you got to get that one dialed into your phone or your text line. That way you can join the show. 913-408-7957. And we'll really find out tomorrow during Tirade Tuesday how many of you have actually put in the new number. Because you're going to be calling the old number, and you're going to be like, wait. You got to call the new number. You got to text the new number, 913-408-7957. David Sofer is going to be here bottom of the hour, former Kansas House candidate. Has a lot of family back in Israel, and he is doing good work on behalf of Jewish folks in Kansas City, pushing back on some of the narrative that unfortunately is stealing the media headlines, even here in town, sad to say. So we'll get you examples of that as well coming up and get to your calls right here on KCMO Talk Radio, now in FM at 95.7. Well, good point on the text line, 913-408-7957. KCMO Talk Radio, now on 95.7 FM. Pete, don't forget it's also Egypt who won't allow residents of Gaza to escape into their country. And you're right, that's happening. Talk about strong borders right there. And I wonder how much that with Egypt is because they don't know who they're getting necessarily. There's a novel concept, actually keeping track of who is coming in and out of your country. 913-408-7710. Alfonso is in Blue Springs. What's up, Alfonso? Good morning.
I'm about to rattle the show, but I totally disagree with you in a sense.
Disagree with me on what? On what?
The kids from Harvard being blacklisted. As crazy as their ideals are, isn't that free speech in America?
Yes. See, here's the thing.
Because basically, we're creating an opposing cancel culture.
No.
For the last 5 years, why not?
Okay, here's why. I am saying that these kids, if they want to stand on their college campuses and support Hamas and everything, they have every right to do that. But it is not cancel culture if a company decides that it does not want to hire somebody who is sympathetic to terrorists.
We've done the same thing. We've been complaining for 5 years for the exact same. They've done the same thing to us, and we complained about it for the last 5 years.
No. No, it is very different if you say, hey, I'm voting for Donald Trump, right? Or I am a conservative, and you don't get a job because you believe what half of the country believes. That's a lot different than being sympathetic for terrorists.
I think that's just an opinion. I mean, they can be in America. You can do what you want to do, but if we're going to allow businesses, it's just like moving to MLB. When you decide to do something based on your money, I think that's the exact same thing. Even though I totally disagree with them, but I think it's the exact same thing. We can't have it both ways.
No, but there's a gray area, Alfonso. Right? There's a gray area here. It is very different. It is very different to blacklist somebody because they vote for a politician that half the country also voted for versus saying, I'm sympathetic for the people that just slaughtered 1,400 Israelis.
But when they moved the MLB game, we were upset about that.
Yes, because
and they did it, and they had the right to do it, but we were upset about it.
Yeah, because Major League Baseball, that's completely different. That's Major League Baseball getting involved and picking political sides. That's different from a company saying, I'm not big on hiring somebody into my culture who is sympathetic towards terrorists.
I have to disagree with that.
I just think
I still love you.
I just think it's a great.
I love you, though.
Hey, I love you too, Alfonso. That's what we're here for, man. The robust conversation, right? That's all it's about, my man.
Appreciate you, man.
All right. See you later, Alfonso.
I hear a lot about, hey, it's a free country, but it doesn't mean there isn't any retribution to you doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
America pretty much guarantees any legal retribution.
Yeah.
But it could certainly be cultural.
Absolutely.
Right.
So now as a small business person, am I required to, let's say, hire somebody who is out there, on the plaza on Saturday saying, yeah, the Palestinians are getting screwed here, that occupation, spouting all that nonsense, the whole thing?
Yeah, if I say, hey, I like blue, and I say, sorry, we're only hiring people that like green today, that's just a thing. It's like my right to like blue. It's their right to like green.
Yeah.
And this whole free country thing doesn't mean that you get to do what you want without retribution.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I would add to that, and I would say when it comes to how we are potentially weaponizing our institutions, i.e. the DOJ, there has been a big focus over the last 3 years on what? On what happened at the Capitol. And if there are truly bad actors with awful intentions who were looking to commit crimes that day on January 6th, I've said for 3 years now that they should be held to the fullest extent of the law. I agree with that. But we're sitting here almost 3 years later, and any grandma who was within 2 miles of the event is, getting calls from the FBI. Meantime, I'm just wondering, hey, if we have college campuses where these rallies have been taking place for the better part of a week, there's going to be one, by the way, or some event at UMKC this week, sympathetic to potentially what happened 9 days ago in Israel. Can we look at maybe who the backers are of these groups? And maybe they're just American citizens who are completely uninformed, ill-informed, clueless, whatever word you want to use, in which case, okay, you leave them alone. But if there are bad actors with bad intentions backing, supporting, funding any of these groups and any of these movements, whether it's in Kansas City or anywhere else for that matter, that seems to me to be a conversation worth having and looking into. And then it's not cancel culture. It is in no way cancel culture. If a company says, I don't really want to be involved with somebody that is at a rally chanting some of the crazy things that we heard on college campuses over the weekend. That is not the definition of cancel culture. That's not. 913-408-7957 on the text line. Pete Alfonso needs to be blacklisted from the show for his comments. No. We don't do that here on KCMO. If you disagree, we're just going to put you on the air and we're going to talk through it together on KCMO Talk Radio, now on 95.7. That's how we got our way to a 100,000 watt FM frequency, by the way. We got there by actually having conversations as Kansas Cityans. Not just shouting over each other, not just saying you're right, I'm wrong, but, having the adult conversations that need to be had about what's happening, whether it's in Kansas City or on the other side of the world. That's how it works. We want to have those conversations. We encourage those. Whether it's myself with the mayor on Thursday mornings, whether it's, Bill O'Reilly this past Friday, that's what has allowed this show to thrive. So Alfonso will not be blacklisted, just like many of our other callers, regardless of what side of the aisle they find themselves on. And trust me, we got plenty. I'm still waiting to hear, by the way, from some of our favorites, though, since we made this flip to FM, Whether it's old Donnie Boy out there in Blue Springs or, some of the folks who have made this show entertaining, if nothing, else. Oh, gosh. Pete, if Alfonso can't understand the distinction between someone saying, I don't believe in a guy being a girl, and someone else saying, I believe in terrorists and what they did last weekend in Israel, there's not much room to discuss. Yeah, I would draw that same conclusion. That's why I disagree with what Alfonso just said there. But it was a good conversation, as it always is, here on KCMO Talk Radio. Hope you had a great weekend. Happy Monday morning. Welcome in. Hit that preset on 95.7 FM. Do it. Don't drag your feet. Just do it now. That way it's done. No reason to wait. So I had a great weekend. Tried to take my mind off some of the news as best I could, as I'm sure many of you did as well. We had great football in the area, by the way. I know the Chiefs were off, but Mizzou beats Kentucky on the road. They're back in the top 25 at 6-1. K-State looks like a different team with Avery Johnson at quarterback. KU, tough weekend, lost at Oklahoma State, but a lot of good stuff. Then we got to watch the Eagles lose yesterday. That's always a plus in my book. But then I ended up with a sick 2-year-old yesterday afternoon, and that was tough. It came out of nowhere, by the way, as it usually does. So I go to Hy-Vee. I take Claire, my oldest, with me. She's 4. And I will have, when I'm an old guy sitting on the porch, I'm going to have great memories of going to Hy-Vee with one or both of the girls. I will. So many memories. Whether it's, Claire walking around with her little list. Now, she can barely write her name. But I put together a little list on my phone for Hy-Vee yesterday, and she's like, Dad, I got to get my list. I got to put my list together. So she grabs this piece of paper, and it's just got scribble on it. And I'm going through things that we need, meat, whatever else was on the list, vegetables, fruits. And I'm like, all right, Claire, is this on your list? You cross it off? She's like, yep, I got it all crossed off, Dad. And it's just, it's a bunch of scribble, but it's very cute. And I love doing that. So yesterday we're walking through Hy-Vee and we're going through the back of the meat section, and I'm trying to find the right meat. Do you go 80-20? Do you go 93-7? What do you do, right? And a mother passes me with her son. And the son's in the cart. He's in the little thing there. And he's probably about Chloe's age. She's my youngest. She's about 2. And the kid's just sitting there in the shopping cart, and his face is buried in what I assume is her cell phone. Now, if you're a parent, no matter how old you are, whether you got older kids, younger kids, you got memories of being in the grocery store and the kids are just out of their minds, right? We've all been there. And I say this as someone who is not one of those anti-screen parents. My kids watch TV. Now, they don't bury themselves in the TV for hours on end. But, we're not like an anti-TV house, anti-screen house. Now, they're never going to have a phone, not till they're way older. They might get a flip phone one day. They're not going to have a phone anytime soon. But, yes, we have TVs. We let them watch TV. We have some TV time. We're not crazy about it. But also, when I've got them in a food store or anywhere else for that matter, and they're acting out, I am always very hesitant, and I haven't done it, I'm proud to say, just stuck a phone in their face. And I'm not going to do it. I mean, I'm going to bang on this wood table, I think it's wood, when I say that. But I'm not going to do it. I just can't get myself to cop out. And this kid, I don't know if this kid was misbehaving 5 minutes prior. I have no idea. But as a fellow parent of little kids, I admit, a part of me was not just bothered, but saddened that if we're sitting there in the food store and the kid's acting like a maniac, even if he's not, and I have no idea if this kid was or not, we just say, take the screen, put it in your face, and let me keep food shopping. My 2 cents, and I'm not saying this as a perfect parent. None of us are. I'm certainly not one at all. I am the furthest thing from that. I make mistakes every single day as a father that I regret. I've never had a perfect day as a parent. None of us have. But that's one of those things that I do feel strongly about. That if we find ourselves in a food store, especially where there's plenty to get the mind going, right? There's plenty to keep them engaged. You know what I love doing? I'll take the girls sometimes, if they're at the food store and they're back and they're just misbehaving. Back left of our Hy-Vee. What do they have back there? Do you know, Mark? You know the Hy-Vee. What's in the back left part of that Hy-Vee? It's not really back left center.
Yeah, the cheese.
The cheese?
They give out free cheese there to my kids.
Oh, geez. Well, I must be going on the wrong days. Back left, they give out free cheese?
I think so.
Okay.
Maybe. Are you thinking the bakery? Or
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
To the right of the bakery. What's to the right of the bakery? Slide over 50 feet to the right of the bakery. Come on. I know you've been in my Hy-Vee.
Fish.
Yes, the fish. Specifically, the crab legs. My girls love. Yeah. They're like, look at these crab legs. Now, I'm sure that'll be over by the time they're 6 or 7. But, man, I could stand there for 10 minutes looking at the crab's legs with them. They love the crab legs. One time I got one of the baked clams, by the way. Big mistake. I'll leave it at that. But anyway, they love looking at the crab legs. I mean, they are fascinated, John, by the seafood back there.
Seafood in the Midwest, people, right? You keep trying. God bless you.
I can't say it was any worse than the filet of fish from McDonald's. But let's just put it this way.
Up there.
It was right up there, and I keep giving it a shot. It was basically breadcrumbs in a clamshell is essentially what it was.
Do they have the live crabs there?
No.
They used to at my old Hy-Vee, or the lobster, I guess it was.
Well, here's the thing. I think the guys behind the counter are starting to get to know me a little bit because they're like, hey, you got to go to the other Hy-Vee at such and such street. There are live crabs over there. I'm like, okay, all right. Well, now I know for next time.
I think it's the one up the street from here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
From Corporate Woods?
95th. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, now I know.
95th and Antioch at least they used to.
They used to have the live crabs. Okay.
Lobster.
Oh, live lobster. Sorry. Yes. Okay. Well, I got to get on that next time. But they got these big old king crab legs that we'll just stare at and look at. And, as a fellow parent, like I said, I am the definition of imperfect. But that one is something that I think, societally speaking, as young parents, we, and I say this about all of us, are using as a crutch. And I try my best. We all do. We do the best we can to try to avoid putting ourselves in that spot where we just say, hey, you know what? Because it's right in our pockets. It's 3 inches by 5 inches. You hand it to the kids and you say, here, leave me alone while I food shop. But, man, I try my best to say, you know what, I'm not going to do it. And that would just be for what it's worth, and it's the price that you paid for it, which is free on the radio, my 2 cents of parenting, John.
Well, before phones, parents used the fear of mortality for those acting up at the store. So that's what you can reboot real quick with that.
Well, it's so funny because it's like culture. The pendulum just keeps swinging back and forth.
Yeah.
That's going to come back at some point. Mm-hmm. And I think our generation, millennial parents, are trying to split the difference, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to go the mortality way, but we also shouldn't say, here's the phone, stick it in your face for the next 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. There's probably a fine line of something in between, which I'm trying to straddle that fence. I just don't know what the heck it is.
You sort of have to create some code words at home that you can use in public because you don't want to be that guy either.
Well, trust me, that's a great point, too. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be the guy that's yelling in aisle 7 and the whole place is like, hey, boy, that guy's having a rough day. Especially if, God forbid, someone recognizes my voice, then I'm really screwed. Then I get in the Kansas City Star, Radical talk show host yells at kids in aisle 7 at Hy-Vee.
One of my grandsons, one of the words he just uses is help. Help! So you'd be in the store going, all right, now put that, help!
Oh, no.
No.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, that's too good. Well, if you hear a kid yelling help, just know it's John Anthony with his grandkid in the food store. Nothing to see here. Oh, jeez. 9:14. Hope you had a good weekend.
That's mostly because he wants you to open whatever he's pulled off the shelf.
Oh, that's
but at the same time.
Oh, jeez. Well, you know what I did? Claire was being so good yesterday. We were talking last week about how you want to talk about Bidenflation. The price of a bag of Doritos, it's like $5.50 for it's not that many Doritos for $5.50. She asked about the Doritos because we got the Cool Ranch Doritos like a month ago. And I said, why don't we try this? It's the new Tangy Ranch, the light green bag of Doritos. Not bad. Not as good as Cool Ranch, but we got a small bag. And she's like, oh, these are not as good as the blue bag. I'm like, yeah. That's why we got the small bag, to try it out. Mm-hmm. That way we didn't waste $5 on a blue bag that, has like 27 chips in it, for crying out loud.
Well, you got to pay for them to pump the air into it. So, so the contents don't settle in shipping.
Yeah, that's so true. 913-408-7957. 913-408-7957. That's the new number in the text line since we're now in FM at 95.7 here on KCMO Talk Radio.